July 1st, 2016. The Vancouver Canucks signed aging forward Loui Eriksson to a 6-year, $36 million contract. Since then, I honestly can't think of a transaction that I haven't extremely hated from Jim Benning. And this is coming from a guy who spent close to 5 hours making a Lucas Spiza Jim Benning Goodwill Hunting parody video. How's it going, guys? Miroki here, and the 2017 NHL Entry Draft has officially come to an end, and I loved what Jim Benning has done today. I have a lot to talk about, so let's just get right into the video. New Jersey, Philadelphia, Dallas, and Colorado picked players that, for the most part, everyone thought would happen. Hischier, Patrick, Heiskanen, and Makar. With the Vancouver Canucks on the clock for the 5th overall pick, I really wasn't sure who they wanted. I would have been okay with taking Vilardi, Pettersson, Middlestat, or Glass, and I had this feeling that maybe they would lean with Elias Pettersson, and I was right. 5th overall, the Canucks take Elias Pettersson. Now, before I get into what I think about the player, I want to address something here. I've seen a lot of talk about people wishing that the Canucks had traded down to get another draft pick and still get their guy in Pettersson, and well, I agree that in most drafts, that's the smart thing to do. This draft was completely wide open. I had no idea where anyone was going to go past the top 4. Yes, there was that trade with the Vegas Golden Knights to drop from 5th to 6th and actually gain an additional 2nd round pick. I don't really know what happened there. It just sounds like Vegas maybe got tipped off or just figured out who we wanted, and they realized that we were not taking their guy, Cody Glass, and that's why that trade fell through. And while that's unfortunate, I really commend Jim Benning for just staying at 5 and taking the player he wanted. Because, like I said, this draft was completely wide open. I think Pettersson could have been off the board by 7. So I'm okay with taking Pettersson at 5, especially with the amount of skill that this guy has. Elias Pettersson had a historic year in the Allsvenskan. Playing against men in Sweden's 2nd best league, Elias Pettersson is the only player in their draft year to put up .95 points per game. Just think about that. His 41 points in 43 games puts him in a class of his own. For comparison, Philip Forsberg in his draft year had .4 points per game. Alexander Wenberg had .7 points per game. William Nylander had .77 points per game. And fellow Canucks prospect and teammate this year, Jonathan Dahlin, had .57 points per game in his draft year. The type of season he's had is unheard of. And some scouts believe that if he was 20 pounds heavier, he would have been in contention for 1st overall. In no means is Pettersson a small player. He's just a little thin. At 6'2", 164 pounds, you could say he could stand to be put on the Jake Virtanen diet. But with his skill level as it is right now, just imagine how good this player is going to be once he puts on a bit of muscle. And what's crazy is he is only going to get better. He'll spend next year in Sweden once again, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because the Canucks will be looking to tank and get another top 5 pick. I truly believe that Elias Pettersson has what it takes to be the best player out of this draft. I'm excited. With the first of their 2 2nd round picks, the Canucks took Cole Lind from the Kelowna Rockets. This year, Lind was a 2nd team All-Star and was 5th in points per game in 1st year eligible WHL scoring. He was also the leading scorer on a Kelowna Rockets team that had Nicholas Merkley and Dylan Dubé. He has good acceleration and a top end speed, and he has a great shot with the ability to pick corners off of the rush. Lind possesses a high hockey IQ, making some plays that are a result of consistently thinking ahead. Quite adept at one-touch passes in a tic-tac-toe manner when he holds pucks for a fraction of a second and can really turn defenses around. His defensive game has been strong in most viewings and is a good example of his overall compete level, as he tends to not turn pucks over and shows a lot of drive to retrieve pucks after making a mistake. He consistently hustles on the back check and remains engaged physically even if his offensive game isn't clicking from the get-go. Lind can play both center and right wing, which I really like about him, and he projects as a middle 6 offensive winger who's good in both ends. With their second round pick, the Canucks took Jonah Gavage. At 6'2", 209 pounds, Gavage is a big power forward who uses his body well to drive to the net. He has a hard shot with an excellent release. The Canucks have said that skating is an area that he will have to address, and from interviews it sounds like he knows this and will look to improve. The reason why I like this pick though is his ability to finish around the net. He is difficult to move in the slot and is good at deflecting shots, which make him very valuable on the power play, which is evident with his 17 power play goals this year. He played on a top line with 2 highly skilled guys in 12th overall pick Nick Suzuki and fellow Canucks pick Petrus Palmer. Sure, this probably inflated his numbers a little bit playing with these two, but I actually really like the idea of this. The Canucks now have an influx of talented playmakers in the pipeline, with Dahlin, Pettersson, Goldobin, Lind, and even Bo Horvat. Gavage, instead of being someone who needs to drive the play forward, seems like the guy who could be able to come in afterwards and clean up the rebounds and score those greasy goals with his size, strength, and from what I've seen, good nose for the net. With their third round selection, the Canucks took Michael DiPietro. Thankfully, no relation to Rick DiPietro. I am so happy Benning took a goalie this year, and he may have gotten the best one out of the draft. Demko looks like he'll be ready to join the Canucks in 3 years at most, which is perfect timing for Michael DiPietro to come in and be Utica's #1 guy. DiPietro led the Windsor Spitfires to a Memorial Cup championship this year, backstopping his team with a .932 save percentage. He also put up an impressive .917 save percentage during the regular season in 51 games. You don't normally see 17-year-olds start as many games as he did. Greg Ballack, who has a lot of great stuff on goalie prospects, says that the biggest knock against DiPietro is not his size, but rather his ability to effectively utilize his 6'1" frame. He reads plays well and is an excellent puck tracker, but his skating strategy needs to improve by the time he reaches the professional level. Goaltenders that have a similar frame achieve success by beating passes on their feet. DiPietro, on the other hand, has an initial tendency to slide across. The downside of that is not just the fact that he's down the butterfly early, reducing his size, but it also means that he loses the ability to move laterally back the other way if there is a returning pass. At 6'1", he'll need to play more aggressively than other larger goaltenders, and the ability to hold his edges is something he is required to master moving forward. What he does have going for him is his athletic ability and competitiveness. Now, what small goalie in the NHL uses his athleticism and aggression to make saves? Jonathan Quick. Now, in no way am I saying DiPietro will be even close to Jonathan Quick and his career, but DiPietro said it himself. He watches Jonathan Quick play a lot and he tries to adapt his playstyle to him. I really like the sound of this. With their 4th round selection, the Canucks finally take a defenseman with Jack Rathbone. And while this isn't the power play quarterback that Benning was hoping for, there's a lot to like about his offensive game. From hockeyprospects.com, they say that he shows good offensive awareness as he will rush pucks up or jump up in the play. His shot is adequate and he will find shooting lanes with his mobility from the blue line. Rathbone is also a fantastic skater as his lateral movements, pivots, and agility make him a shifty player that can lead a breakout, which is something that Benning highly values in defensemen. Jack will be heading back to the USHL next year as he wants to stay close to home, close to his brother, and he'll be joining Harvard in the fall of 2018. And although it's a while away, I am very excited to see how this player develops in college hockey. I think he could be like a Troy Stecher. The Canucks then traded down from 112 to 135 and 181. At this stage in the draft, picks are basically lottery tickets, and the more lottery tickets you buy, the better chance you have at hitting on a player. Again, I really like this move by Benning, and I really liked who he took with the second of these 2 picks. But first, we'll talk about the first one, Christopher Gunderson. With 0 points in 10 games in the SHL, offense isn't really what Gunderson is known for. This double overaged defenseman has a defense-first mentality with solid mobility. He adds size and physicality to our defensive prospects, but I don't really like the idea of this pick. I just think they could have signed Gunderson as a free agent and wouldn't have had to use a pick on him, but maybe they knew another team was looking at him. What do I know? I don't really know him enough as a player to really judge this pick, but at face value, it doesn't really seem like he's going to turn into much. If, however, this is a Thomas Gradin pick, then I am all for this. With their next pick at 181, the Canucks took Petrus Palmer. Like I said, the Canucks went for skill in this draft, and boy did they ever when they selected this double overage player. This is a swing for the fences type pick, and I love it. Palmer was all about skill, and probably the only reason why he wasn't drafted in his draft year is because of his size. At 5'7", he is the shortest player to be drafted this year, and he is a full 2 inches shorter than Johnny Gaudreau. But it seems like he doesn't play small as he goes to the dirty areas to score his goals and set up plays. Also of note is that he had a 7.3 goals for percentage relative to his teammates, which means that when he was on the ice, his team was scoring goals. A lot of them. More so than when he wasn't on the ice. I love everything about this pick and what it symbolizes. Benning is finally drafting for skill, and it really makes me question the Jake Virtanen pick. Was that really his choice, or did ownership have something to do with it? Or maybe I'm just giving Benning too much credit and he's just learning from his mistakes, finally, after 3 years. And with their final pick of the draft, the Canucks took overage defenseman Matt Broussard from the Oshawa Generals. I couldn't find too much on him, but he seems like a safe pick, defense first, good pass kind of guy. Again, something that Benning really looks for in defensemen. He's also on the younger side of overage players, so it'll be interesting to see how he develops in Oshawa next year given a larger role. His point totals this year didn't really seem too bad, especially his primary points, and if he is given a larger role, let's hope he thrives. Overall, I loved 6 of the 8 picks the Canucks made this weekend. Hopefully another year or 2 of tanking and good drafting will pay off, and Canucks fans will finally be treated to a young, fast, exciting team pushing for a playoff spot. This weekend was a great start. So Canucks fans, let me know what you thought of the draft down below. Stay tuned for more draft videos about the Canucks. I have a couple planned that I think you guys are really going to enjoy. And for those of you that don't really like the Canucks, that's okay too. You can still get involved. Ask me a question down below on any prospects, and I'll try my best to get back to you on that. And I will also be making a ton more videos, not just Canucks related. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time.